And that's how it boosts itself as an internet connection.
Yeah.
And then what it does is like as soon as it gains access, it runs an Apple script to load up an iframe, thousands of times, cripples your computer entirely and just can take it down.
Really?
And this is there's no passwords. It's just a matter of this USB key being inserted into your Mac.
It's crazy.
That's it.
That's crazy. You familiar with Proton Mail?
PGP, right?
Yeah. So they even have like blockchain mail right now. There's a bunch of interesting stuff going on. But security is a huge thing, and I think people really underestimate, like, the whole idea, people are saying, like, we don't want the government to do anything. I'm like, guys, the government hears and sees everything that you're doing. And what I mean by government, let's kind of like open up that conversation. I'm not saying government as like big brother. Like, for me, government's corporations as well. Like,
it is, yeah. I mean, look, we trust a lot of our daily lives and our data to corporations. So we are joined by Jack, my dog.
Yeah, he's the MC now.
He's the MC, yeah. So we're talking about the law, man.
Yeah.
And I think with this rapid advancement of technology and security and things like that, and just rapid consumerism, right? Amazon Prime now being same day delivery.
Bro, 6 hour delivery promising depending on what region you're in.
That's true, yeah.
1 hour. If you're in the downtown core, I think it's like a 10-kilometer radius.
Yeah.
Guaranteed 1 hour delivery.
It's pretty crazy, right? But on the topic of the law, the thing is that most of our laws are archaic. And I think that the government doesn't put enough time into really updating laws to keep up with the pace of technology and just how people are living their lives differently.
Well, this is the problem with the government, because it's so big, it's very bureaucratic, so it has to go through so many layers to get approved. And you have certain people who want to protect their legacy positions, they don't want to lose their jobs. Everyone's in this kind of like hedonic treadmill living, and that's why I'm like a firm believer. Like you mentioned Singapore. Singapore is a great example for Toronto, because Toronto's around 5 million for the GTA. We're the fourth largest North American city. And I always tell people Toronto should become a city-state.
Yeah.
We should reduce. I don't care about reducing taxes, but the people who live in Toronto should benefit from living in Toronto.
Well, I mean, we've got taxation now, or potential taxation tolls on the DVP.
Yeah, DVP and the Gardner.
Yeah.
And it would make sense if it was taxation tolls starting in Burlington and Brampton or outside Scarborough. That would make sense. But they're talking about taxation tolls at like inside Toronto.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are Torontonians getting taxed for their own roads in Toronto?
It doesn't make sense. I think the problem is a real problem, and it's just the hallmark of being a successful city.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give you an example. In Singapore, most of Singapore's blue-collar workers actually come in from Malaysia.
I bet.
I bet. Right across the border, they take a bus in every day.
Same with Saudi Arabia.
That's the deal, right? And I think it's a worthy problem to solve, that adding in taxation for city residents who are already paying a higher cost of living does not make sense. It might be short-sighted.
I'm a firm believer in what Rumi says, one of my favorite poets and philosophers. Yesterday I was clever and wanted to change the world, today I'm wise, I want to change myself. And I think the more we try to like push legislations or change what's going on everywhere else, I think that's a wrong approach, as opposed to really trying to figure out how you can benefit yourself in a beneficial manner for society, not like in an egotistical way and I want to fucking run over everybody just for my own gains, but in a more homeostatic, holistic way. I always say, imagine if everyone did that. If everyone figured out, like, okay, how can I become the most wealthiest? And for me, wealth is not just like money. That's the least. That's the bottom, because money is a renewable resource. They print it. That's how I tell people. But what I mean by wealth is like happiness, spirituality, relationships, the things that matter the most. But now imagine if everybody did that.
Well, what you need for that is really a change in education, right?
Sure.
Because we don't teach our kids to think about these things.
Yeah.
We do teach them to think about money.
Oh yeah, from day one.
From day one.
Yeah.
And you're talking about printing money. If you look at the quantitative easing for major world governments over time, it's all kind of been in sync actually. Since even the recession in 2008, you see the rate at which these governments are printing their own money. And they're printing it almost in the same ratios as each other, which is what's keeping the world economy, the currency rate for major currencies in check. Because they're all kind of printing at the same pace. And that is the almighty dollar that we're taught to chase in school, right? And it starts from a very early age. Disagreements about money and marriages and being a key reason as to why they fall apart. Getting better jobs and having to work harder to get better degrees and things like that to be able to earn more money. But a lot of those things that you're talking about, which come to like day-to-day philosophy, just logic, understanding of relationships. I mean, it's only very recently that the entire professional sort of realm is talking about emotional intelligence. We're not taught that. We're only taught how to increase IQ in school because frankly, people who have a higher IQ as per the system tend to have managerial jobs, and that's the class divide between white collar and blue collar as well. So it's really interesting how that entire educational system is really the remnants of the Industrial Revolution between system makers and the cogs in the wheel, so to speak, right? The assembly line worker in many ways. But I think that needs to change because we are moving into now a society where a lot of the blue collar jobs, will go to automation, right? And I think rightfully so because it opens up time and freedom for people, just all kinds of people, to practice what you're talking about, right? To be able to invest in better relationships. The interesting thing is that some countries have already kind of figured this out. You look at Europe, right? And they've kind of figured that. They understand that societies that have people that trust each other, that have each other's back, they live longer, they're happier, their GDP is higher, all of these different things. I mean, it seems like it's common sense, but when you're trying to figure out how to squeeze out more widgets per hour, it's the wrong KPI to optimize for.
So what's your hopes, man, going on in like next 10 years? Any predictions you can actually make?
Yeah, I think that we will start seeing a vast decrease in degenerative mental diseases. So I think Alzheimer's will be something that we will cure.
Well, they just came out with consensus. Alzheimer's is a type 3 diabetes.
Is that right?
Yep.
Type 3 diabetes.
Yeah, it's a deregulation of sugar. So if your family's prone to type 1, type 2, the chances are you are prone to Alzheimer's.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. It's been a long time theory. Well, no theory. I want to say theory, but long time speculation. That it's a biochemical sugar malfunction of the cells.
It's really interesting. I think that in general we'll be able to solve some of the problems related to like Parkinson's and
that'll be interesting.
ALS is another one that's really near and dear to my heart because I've gone my family suffered from it. I lost my father to ALS. And for something that back then 13 years ago there's still no cause. At least now we know what gene causes it.
And then like the gene therapies, it's improving literally every year.
I think advances in CRISPR, I think that's going to be the lever through which we solve a lot of disease. So being able to take, like humans have always found so much knowledge in nature. So like us learning to fly, we looked at birds and we looked at insects and things like that. And we looked at how do you have a light exoskeleton and figure out how to have wings and things like that, right? I think that we'll find some of that in healthcare as well. So I actually do see healthcare really becoming better and more accessible, hopefully. Before it becomes more accessible, sadly it won't be, and it'll be something that'll, I would love to see a cure to HIV. And I think it's going to happen in the same way, really, where a combination of understanding the human genome and understanding actually how viruses work. So being able to engineer a robotic, call it a nanovirus or something like that, can actually go in and start disabling what makes cancer cells work, right?
Well, there's people who walk around with HIV who are carriers and they're not prone to it.
Exactly,
there's supposedly people in Africa curing people of HIV in certain alternative methods, which whenever I hear people saying it's hoo-ha alternative methods, I would hold your horses. The reason why I say that is because any study that you see, the people who are paying for the study have a monetary gain from the study.
The incentives are not, there's personal bias for
There's
sure.
personal bias to it. So when you're seeing, for example, let's say it's like a natural herb or this or that, there's no company out there that would be incentivized to actually spend millions of dollars. That's the easiest part, putting money in. The hard part is the legislation, the legalities, and all that stuff. And actually going through a study it takes years and years. And there's also like human ethical situations. Can you do that to a human being? Can't you do that to a human being? But like, I think if they can do that, like if we come to an actual consensus and say like these 4 things are proven through anecdotal evidence and through actual like observation, that's fucking huge.
What do you think next 10 years, big trends?
I believe more and more, obviously I'm biased in this, but I believe more and more in cryptocurrencies as not the majority, but as a default. First time ever in human history, if shit hits the fan, as right now in India, I have a secondary option that the government doesn't control. First time ever that there's trust in another monetary system. I also believe though that healthcare, as you mentioned, will become better and better. But I believe though it's going to be an issue because I think the technology is going to be so expensive and certain medicines are going to be so expensive. They're going to see this big divide. Only certain people will be able to afford certain procedures. Yeah,
I worry about that too. I worry about how once these, before it becomes available to the masses in large countries, it will become available in a privatized fashion in smaller countries and those who can afford it. So this idea of taking that luxury vacation where you also get a surgery will only become more popular. And I think that as CRISPR technology becomes more and more available, the machines will become smaller, the talent will increase, and you can actually go and get a brain upgrade or change your eye color or whatever. You really, it's going to become designer cosmetics for your genes.
But I'm gonna be holding out on that because I'm a firm believer in like we don't know what the consequences are. Everything's a zero-sum game when it comes to science or when it comes to nature. It's like, if you move this thing, that
it rebalances.
Yes. Yeah, it does. There has to be homeostasis. So I have no idea. Like right now, people saying GMO is evil. Well, I'm not in the camp of yes or no. I'm like, they're both benefits and negativities. It hasn't been long enough. I have no idea what the consequences are of us eating GMOs. It hasn't been 100 years. It hasn't been 200 years.
That's true.
It takes a period of time to look back in hindsight, like, oh well, now we know.
It's almost a little bit like. Think about how much more we know about radiation now today that Marie Curie didn't know.
Look at smoking. Or fucking doctors. You want to stress out? Less stress? Fucking smoke. They smoke in hospitals.
Yeah, exactly. There's things that we don't know, and I think that history does repeat itself in many ways.
100%, man. 100%.
That's just the reality of it. So we'll see. To be determined.
But one thing I do want to solve, well, I know for a fact there's going to be an educational crisis, and that system's going to burst, at least in North America. It's like some like ridiculous sum, like $2 trillion owned collectively, like in education, that they don't have. No one has that money. That's going to burst, the actual financial portion of the educational system, because it's very simple. People are graduating and they're not producing enough ROI with that piece of paper. Second of all, a big issue in the world, I hate when people say there's not enough food. There's so much fucking food in the world. The amount of food that we have is ridiculous. The waste. So much waste. Waste is huge. So there's 2 problems with that. There is a logistic problem. So it's like, okay, now we have this food. Who do we deliver this food? How can we deliver this food? How do we know when the food's going to go bad? That's the first problem. The second problem, which is a media fix problem that we can fix right away, and simply what France did, the government can snap their fingers. Don't make it fucking illegal to give out free food. Don't make it illegal. End of story.
This is not a problem in third world countries.
No.
It's not. It's only in first world countries where liability becomes such a big issue that you can't give out free food, and you go to Tim Hortons at closing and they throw out everything.
This is simple. I have a solution for that. You can do whatever you want. You should actually, by law, you have to give people free food if you have it. But by law, they can't sue you. There you go. Even if they want to play some kind of shyster game, like, I guess, no, you can't.
So you're suggesting laws that are commonly accepted, like copyright law, as an example, right? There need not be any written contract.
That's right.
They just accept it the way it is.
Accept the way
an
it
idea
is.
Belongs to you.
Makes sense. Because even though we live in such like a first world country, and Canada is very prosperous and so many resources, we still have a lot of people who are hungry in Canada.
My girlfriend was telling me it's something like 1 in 6 kids.
Yes,
1 in 6 kids in Canada.
Man. So that's no joke.
And then the parents don't actually eat enough just so they can actually give them the kid a meal.
And for me, it's crazy because like I see how much fucking waste there is. The other day I was walking through Eden Center in the food court, just walking through it, and I'm just seeing all the food, like the food on the plates, going in the garbage. I'm like, fuck me.
What do you think is going to happen to just the average level of affluence globally in the next 10 years?
I think it's going to get real worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I think the divide's going to get more and more and more. And it has nothing to do with people. And the divide's going to happen due to the fact that the world has been so dumbified, like the movie Idiocracy, or the mockumentary, the documentary, whatever you want to call it. I really do believe because there's going to be a certain subset of people who are self-motivated, self-educated.
Yeah.
They've literally unplugged themselves from the matrix of being a robot and now following like go to school, get a 9 to 5, work up the corporate ladder. They're like fuck all that stuff, and they're not evil. They're not good. They just I'm not a believer in evil or good. I'm a believer they're just doing themselves. Like,
self-motivated.
For you, it may be good. For someone, it's someone's evil. No matter what you do to somebody will be evil to them. No matter what you fucking do, someone views, oh, that's evil.
I saw a really interesting standpoint, or read about it, and it was about how being vegetarian is not saving animals.
I saw that, yeah.
And it's the point of view was interesting. How it was about, well, if let's say more people went vegetarian, you need more crop space, and the more crop space you need to now cut down trees and
you need more
whatnot.
farms.
You need more farms. At the end of the day for that. So you're killing some form of wildlife just by doing that, which was, I'm not for it or against it. I just think it's an interesting perspective. But I wish for people to think more critically like that and to be able to invite different perspectives.
Well, as soon as anybody talks as an absolutist, like whether it's like I'm a libertarian or I'm a feminist or I'm a vegan or this and that, I close my ears.
Or all three of those.
Yeah, all three of those. Oh fuck! Imagine all three. Oh shit! There's a window. I'm fucking jumping out. But next 10 years is gonna be interesting. Like I said at the beginning, the best way you can prepare yourself is just be mentally prepared.
Yeah.
Just understand society's moving so fast. You can't really predict what's gonna happen. Study, learn, be on top of trends. Don't be afraid of life. Take as much risk as possible. Become self-independent in the mind, and that's it, man. That's the best thing you can do.
Invest in yourself.
Yeah, that's what
nobody else will.
Best investment he had is investing in himself.
Because nobody else will, and you shouldn't wait for the system to make it easy for you.
That's right. Cool.
The cheapest form of investment in yourself that is still, I think, too cheap is books.
Yes.
You can get millions of dollars worth of ideas, and I don't just mean like absolutist dollars, but just whatever unit of happiness, and growth you want to think about in books. Yeah. So I think the most successful people, Charlie Munger actually has said this, where he said, the most successful, there's not any successful people I know that do not read books.
Agree. Awesome. Well, we'll leave it at that. Deb, always a pleasure.
Cheers.
Where can people find more information about you?
Check me out at poweredbysearch.com or on Twitter at DevBasu.
Cool. Peace.
Cheers.